we should be back in pick and ban phase, middle court. Let's just go straight into this.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening right now. It's happening right now. Okay, so Hawks, blue side, AXIZ, red side. Couple of AD carry bans from the Hawks targeting out Sang-Chu. Has been that main carry. AXIZ, bit more focused on the support pool with Renata Glass and Karma taken off the table, and finally that Hakarim banned away from Blank.
Very important. That's actually a really big spot because Blank has kind of looked better on that Hakarim. Volibear as well, another champion I'd like to call out. But I mean, Marble's probably world's future skin champion was left up, but whoa.
Ooh.
Just going for Vape Nation, Viego isn't really of a flex pick anymore. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious where that's going to go. And yes, Sang-Chu, you've looked great on Jinx. So, feels free to pick up here.
Feels like this Viego a bit of a takeaway pick from Swamp. We've seen him pilot it a couple times. Blank has also got one game on it, but definitely the weirdest first pick that I think that we're going to see today is that Jinx locked in for Sang-Chu, like we already talked about. Not really an AD carry that he's favored as much as stuff like the Aphelios, but still very, very strong in that pick.
It is. But I'm still trying to get over this Viego. I'll be honest, Middlecop. I'm still a bit perplexed. It's given me a right curveball, but something that isn't a curveball is Swamp's Volibear. Now that's something I am familiar with. I love the direction that AXIZ is currently going with. Obviously, it's very typical that you do third rotation support pick here, so we're going to get to see what AXIZ is probably thinking about. The Hawks just decided to go for the blind Viego into probably their full support, their full bot lane. I mean, Xayah Rakan is a very real thing, and we already seen a Rakan from today, and Xayah is very much meta at the moment.
And we've already seen Reiner have a couple of really good games on the Rakan, both pairing up with Marble and linking up with Dasher, who has been the main carry for Hawks this split in that mid lane. Xayah, much more of a pick at sort of denying dive from AXIZ, and Vex actually going to be the rotation instead, not opting towards that Rakan, blind picking one of these very powerful control mages for Dasher in the mid lane.
And I don't hate the direction that they're going with. It's also a pick away. So instead of banning it, we're just going to pick it away from Megumin, because Megumin has been playing a huge quantity of Vex at the moment. So I really like the angle that the Hawks are trying to go with. I do hope that we are going to see a diving top laner now to actually kind of match up with what Dash is going to be doing at this moment in time. So either something like a side lane diving champion like Camille or Gnar are definitely options for them. Rakan, immediately banned away. We kind of already alluded to that one from the Hawks' perspective, so very much makes sense from AXIZ. Have to imagine they'll probably go for another support ban as well and just put Reiner in a more difficult spot. Personally, I'd like the Rel. I know it's not meta, but he's looked so good on it.
Yeah, the Reiner Rel is a sight to behold. Obviously, like, there are lots of those engaged supports left up, so stuff like the Leona, stuff like the Nautilus, something is gonna be falling through. But I agree with you. Taking Reiner off comfort is a very, very good way to destabilize the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks gaming and give AXIZ a better chance of securing something high priority for themselves, because they are going to be that R4 pick, so they will be able to grab their support before Hawks get a look at that pool.
And what I also love about taking off of comfort, to use your point, Kennen be banned away from Toll 2. It's the champion that he has looked honestly very good on, and he has allowed AXIZ to win multiple games through that Kennen. So I think that makes total sense. Hawks deciding to go, hey, we'll just ban it in our second rotation because you guys didn't pick it in your first rotation. If they did pick it in the first rotation, obviously Hawks have the opportunity to give Kinatsu any and all counter picks that they want now. Now they don't have to worry about that. It's probably going to be a blind spot for them, so we'll just take the Nautilus away and go, hey, you're not allowed that. Rel is still open for Reiner. Support pick is probably going to be coming in. I completely agree with you. AXIZ, what are you going to show us? What do you feel that they might give us, middle court?
I do love a good Leona all the time. Love a bit of engage. But Tahm Kench is on the table, and Hawks seem to be angling towards a bit more of a dive focus. So a more supportive support, I guess, in that regard, I think would be best. And I'm not really surprised to see Dice lock in that Tahm.
No, and Tom Kent can do it all right. He's far more of an engaged champion, but when you only have really one carry that you need to properly protect in that Jinx, it works perfectly because Ryze, pretty tanky champion when you get a few items on him. Volibear, you're not going to have to worry about him, and most top laners you're probably not going to have to worry about unless we get something very squishy like a Jace, who can also just output a huge amount of damage.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what Toltu's going to go for. Kinatsu deciding to opt in for the safest way of playing this match, and it's just going to be a Gnar. And I mean, makes sense to me, realistically, if you're blind picking against Toltu. Just pick something that normally is going to be 50-50 into most matchups.
It can be a bit risky though, because there are some quite hard Gnar counters, and Toltu, a player who's a bit more coming out of Celica, is probably going to be a bit more practice on a little bit of the wackier stuff like the Aurelia, which we don't really see in competitive too much. There's the Rel for Reiner. Neither of us are really surprised about this one, and Hawks have built sort of a 4-person core minus this AD carry of Xayah for Marble, a 4-person core of champions that all really want to dive on top of AXIZ and cause these carries a lot of problems. Yeah,
and I mean, it's going to be on the side of AXIZ to peel as effectively as possible, and that's not a Gnar counter.
Okay.
That's
oh, it's barely a champion I'd associate with Toltu at all, to be honest, Lexi.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. Like, I should be clear to our lovely viewers out there. I don't actually hate the pick. It's just I wasn't expecting that kind of pick. So now I'm having to readjust my perspective on this. And I mean, Sion is pretty anti-dive in a lot of senses. Yeah. He's got knockups, he's got fat shields, he will really not care if you get into his face. And in actuality, the champion normally wants to get into your face. So that's the angle they're going to go for. Whereas the side of the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks, they've got dive with just that Xayah, as you mentioned. So I think I slightly favor AXIZ at the end of that. They also have a Jinx. So I always like the team with the Jinx.
I mean, it didn't work for Marimo in our previous game, so definitely something to worry about here. But yeah, I think Hawks have got that very strong dive focus, like you mentioned, but AXIZ a lot more about the sort of front to back. This tank line that they've got on the side, the Volibear and the Tahm Kench, it is going to be invulnerable. I don't think that there are any champions on the Hawks that are going to be particularly more effective at dealing tanks than with other champions. So if Sanctu gets a lead, if Megumin gets a lead early, there are a lot of tools to prevent the Hawks from actually dealing with those hyper carries. And at that point, it becomes much harder for you to actually successfully pull off this dive comp.
Early leads need to come out from the side of the Hawks here. I feel like that is the only angle really for them, but I'll go 60-40 AXIZ. There we go. That's my prediction going into the match. Oh, it's so close.
It's a close one, but it's going to be a banger either way as we are jumping onto the Rift for the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming against AXIZ. The Hawks want to win this one to get the record over AXIZ and to keep the pressure on them in the race for that final playoff spot. If AXIZ win, they open up a 2-game advantage over the Hawks and maybe don't lock that final spot, but they definitely stamp their name on it to a certain degree. Let's get into this. This is going to be a good one, Lexi.
And I can confirm we also have video and audio all working. So while our post-game was mostly heard at 12 seconds, we were heard the whole way through our post-game. So we didn't lose any of that.
Oh, poggers.
Just our faces weren't on the screen. When we came into this match, everything's worked flawlessly. Technical issues.
Wonderful.
I mean, it's just how they are sometimes. It's just how they are. But I mean, Toltu with the crab emo, I mean, why would you want to be in this spot realistically? Pretty terrifying if you are the side of the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks, and Blank is going to be starting on that blue side clear. Going to be matched with Swamp also doing their red side. Pretty standard full clears we're probably going to be seeing from both these junglers. And middle core. Sir.
Yes.
Who are you favoring in this matchup? You're excited for this match, but who are you favoring?
Do you know what? God damn it, Lexi.
Wow. Blitzcrank is the same as me. He's
Blitzcrank is like, go on, slightly AXIZ. I think AXIZ are ultimately favored. I always want to see Dasher pop off in this mid lane. I always want to see him have good performances and and put those carry points on and actually be able to translate it into wins, because it feels like the number of times that Dasher has popped off this season has been about twice as many wins as Hawks have had. So I want Dasher to win, but I also think that Sangchu and the rest of AXIZ have probably got a better setup, and we see that in this bot lane, just continually shoving Marble and Reiner under the tower in these early levels, getting that early lane advantage and securing themselves leads.
Not unexpected. A Jinx outranges Xayah early game. It's going to be really hard. Obviously, if you get a bit too far up, Dicey is going to gladly start trying to stack his passive onto you with this Time Kench, so you're just going to have a pretty unfortunate time. So as we get here, I mean, look at that. Swamp's already looking to try and see if they could do a wraparound gank. Like, that is how far up the side of AXIZ have in this early game. And, I mean, Blank's not going to be coming online till 6, which, I mean, weirdly enough, that's how Blank has mostly played this season. He's been very quiet in the early game. So, I mean, I guess just opt fully into the playstyle and pick a Viego. I don't hate the idea. It just does mean Swamp knows he's going to have absolute run of the jungle for the first, like, 7 or 8 minutes of this game.
And the crucial thing for me is how much is he actually going to take advantage of that? Because you look at bot lane and that's sort of pushing against him, so he's going to be forced to recall and then get back onto the map later. And with each second, with each minute that passes, Blank is getting closer to that level 6 mark, closer to unlocking that Heartbreaker strike, and Swamp is a little bit closer to the inevitable fall off that Volibear is going to experience. Going towards the top side down with Konatsu pushed fairly close to Toltu's tower could be a potential gank angle.
I mean, Konatsu is playing currently without any deeper vision, so now he's just put that wall down. He can play a little bit further up, but I mean, yeah, river vision is all good and all, but you know, with a Volibear, that's not what you've really got to worry about. You need to make sure you don't get lane ganked, because Volibear can do that. He can just stand in a brush and then just randomly come out, and then you're like, oh yeah, Volibear at Mark 10. Forgot about that one. Also the side lane brush. So, I mean, Konatsu has to be very much playing around it. Also, they've got limited vision actually in the jungle of AXIZ. So, Blank isn't able to really do much tracking of Swamp as it currently stands. Ever since that back that Swamp did, it's pretty hard to know exactly where Swamp would be on his clear. And we haven't actually also seen Blank go into the jungle of AXIZ. So, going to be interesting to see how that goes. Konatsu, though, going mega, trading.
Yeah, Toltu doesn't have a lot of mana. That's the boulder thrown out. A couple more hits with a hyperprop, flashes forward and gets himself the solo kill. Very well done by Konatsu.
Yeah, hugely well played. And I was not expecting that kill, obviously. And the slightest, I thought it was fine. Konatsu showing why he was the rookie that came in on his first game and solo boloed Ebby, of all players.
Yeah.
Return to form.
Who's Ebby?
Just this player that's kind of completely warped the LJL meta in the past. You might have heard of him once or twice.
That's quite impressive. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, he basically forced the meta in the
Blank,
LJL.
flashing onto Sangchu here, forced to burn that summoner spell himself. I think the Hawks are going to be able to chase this one down, but does force Swamp away from that early Drake that he was trying to contest. Actually going back in, and Megamin has the Realm Warp available, so can join if a fight were to occur. It doesn't seem very likely. As well.
Even if you Realm Warp, I mean, because of the range that the ult gives at the moment with Dasher as well, it's not actually going to get them much further ahead of where Dasher can come in as well if they land their ult. So, in a weird sense, it's like Realm Warp and TPs are both down, but, well, no, Realm Warp's up, but Dasher can always just join you if he lands the ult onto you. So, and you remember, you can land the ult onto Rise, and if he chooses to go for his Realm Warp, you can then follow him afterwards.
Oh, that's a funky combo. I want to see that.
There's options here. It's not always going to be a perfect solution for you, Megamin, and I mean, if we get a few items on Dasher, your Realm Warps might be getting a bit spicy. You might actually be giving delivery services over to Dasher. And Dasher's the kind of player who I will call out who will make that kind of play, as opposed to some other players who might be like a more risk averse, like Megamin typically.
Yeah, I think Dasher has sort of learned over the course of this split to be a little bit more aggressive. I think in the earlier weeks we did see him having a bit more of that passivity, not really being the carry that the Hawks have needed at times, but he's definitely Opted a bit more towards this kind of aggressive playstyle as the season has come on. AXIZ grabbing that first Infernal Drake, so not going to see that being the soul, but Blank responding with a little bit of a counter jungle on this top side. Toltu getting ulted back by Kinatsu again, who is just bullying this Scion under the tower. One more hit would take him out. Charging up the Decimating Smash. The one-up isn't going to come through, but here comes Blank. Actually, no, here doesn't come Blank. He just wants to take Krugs instead.
I love that because Toltu literally has to give the respect as if it's going to be there. And at the same time, if he doesn't give that respect, he just dies. Like that's cut and dry there. And this is another top laner on red side.
Swamp caught out, feared, taken low, taken down by Blank. Another kill for the Hawks.
And I was going to say this is a top laner who got caught out with Ignite top again, getting punished for not having TP. But I mean, that's also just the side of Hawks playing around the idea of where they have pressure. They know they've got this top side. It's like, Swamp is probably going to want to play top side to help Toltu out and kind of help maybe try and crash the wave and get it going the other way if Kinatsu's going to keep pushing it. Blank, why don't you go into the jungle and see if you can do something? Kinatsu's there and he's got Mega as well.
He's about to turn.
Oh, Mega Man has to run away. He's like, yep, no, Kanatsu's going Mega. I'm not gonna play with that. That Gnar has already messed up my top lane Scion. I'm a Rise. I can't fight that. But no vision. Only seeing Blank, and it's like only seeing Dasher. So you're like, well, I'm fine with that. You don't see that though. You don't see Blank coming around, and this is just fantastic play from the side of Hawks playing around vision.
Yeah, really? The flash being burnt as well means that the gank potential that Swamp has goes all the way down. And look at that. 9 minutes into the game, the Volibear sat 0-1-0 and at a minus CS deficit when doesn't really have much of his own jungle to clear. Yeah. It's not where you want this pick to be. So I think Hawks are going to be very, very happy about how this early game has gone.
I mean, Hawks just got kind of understanding that they are playing against a team who's not going to fully punish Blank and how he's like to play the game. At this in the early phases of the game. The first 10 minutes, Blank likes to just farm and just kind of play around, get Rift Herald and play around that. They got the Rift Herald, which is a huge part. They got the kill, and now Blank is 7. He's going to do a lot more damage than he used to be.
Oh, Swamp going for the engage, though. Flash roll from Megamin as they are coming hard onto Blank. The Super Mega Death Rocket will not secure the kill for Sanctuary as Megamin picks that one up. It was a good response by AXIZ, to be fair to them. It was an overstep, well punished.
Yeah, and Reiner not having the crash down ult there did actually put them kind of in that awkward spot because they couldn't have the ult to actually respond effectively to re-engage back in. It's why Dasher, you saw them floating around. He had his ult, but it's like, okay, if Dasher goes in and it does get a 3 or 4 man fear, what's happening after?
Yeah.
And that was the bigger question. I think the side of Hawks were just like, we can't do anything here. Reiner's just ticked over to 6. Reiner can now re-engage. The important note is Dicey was 6 in that team fight. So a good calling, honestly, from the side of the Hawks, just kind of going, yeah, Dash is dead. He had flash, didn't flash. He tried to ult, he didn't even try and ult away. The CC was too strong there. And I mean, decisive calls. If that's Hawk actually making these calls and making reactions to this, I'm really excited. If it's just kind of them trying to make the best of a bad situation, again, I'm excited. If that's just kind of their innate calling, though, I'm a little bit more worried for them because if they're just kind of like, yeah, just leave Dasher, just leave them blank, it's fine, it doesn't really matter. Kinatsu having a really weird time of this one against Toltu, but I mean, this is Conqueror Gnar. Bully the Gnar, bully the Scion.
It seems to be going pretty well for him. It's built up a very sizable CS lead, sort of 25 in the advantage. And we didn't mention this at game start, but Toltu has actually opted for this unsealed spellbook, so it does have access to the Ignite, a little bit more power, but really doesn't seem like it's working out too well from his Kinatsu, who's going to pick up his second plate of the game.
Well, I mean, honestly speaking, Toltu should just be popping that Ignite at random points onto Kinatsu if they start trading a little bit. Prevent some of the healing coming through. He has got Doran's Blade, and I don't know his second rune tree, but if he's got anything that's got vague healing, then yeah, he should just be popping the Ignite and actually using and chaining through the spell, using the spell. But currently, I don't think I've seen him change a summoner.
Does take a while to get unlocked, so maybe that's the case. Ulting back to lane here, but probably don't want to walk up too much further than this as Blank is in the area. Herald going to charge down, take out that top layer, and funnel even more gold onto Kinatsu, who is having an absolute field day on this now. But the responses we see so often, Swamp starting up that Drake would be the second of the game for AXIZ, but we're seeing another Herald charge in the top lane. How far are the Hawks going to push this?
I mean, why stop? Like, that's the fantastic thing. They know that Swamp is most likely going to be bot side. They actually had vision on this dragon, so I mean, they know where he's at. So Kinatsu was just going, I'm going to keep pushing, and Blank's like, I am shadowing you, I am taking their top side jungle. They took the golems, they're taking red buff, I think they've taken chickens as well, so it's like, why? And now that they're looking at it going, what is the soul? Okay, it's Hex Tech. Okay, we'll play around that. We've already got a lead. We've got a gold lead currently of about 3k, so why not just keep playing around this dragon? We can get Rift Herald as well in 1 minute 30, as the timings of this dragon and the Rift Herald isn't synced up, and that's something AXIZ at least could have tried to force to some aspects. They could have tried to have the two of them sync up. They didn't, and now it's going to actually maybe hurt them, because Hawks will play towards this, I feel.
It's a gambit that you have to play a lot of times.
I like that phrasing.
Do you take those early Drakes, or do you try and get a little bit more done on the map? I think, like you're alluding to there, the Hawks have found themselves on the advantageous side of this trade. So when that third Drake spawns in a few minutes' time, expect them to contest it, and expect it to be very, very difficult for AXIZ to actually secure themselves on that soul point. Pressure in the bot side is good, though. This is what you need to do if you want to secure that Drake. But you're going to need to do it for a couple more minutes, because you're going to be waiting a long time in that bush, Megamin.
Yeah, Toltsu doesn't have TP, hasn't been able to change that Ignite still. So, I mean, AXIZ grouping up effectively and playing around the vision that they do have. I love it. They just need to find a way of getting Toltsu involved, because Kinatsu does have that TP. He will definitely come in for any and all fights. And remember, I mentioned the combo for Dasher, where if at any moment he sees Mega Man Realm Warping, he can just go, pop the ult onto you, and I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to watch you. Are you going to take it or not? And now the poke starts coming out that the side of the Hawks can dish out with this Vex. Honestly, though, that's really all the poke they actually have is this Vex, because they are a dive comp. And the option is, if we're going to have to match them, we're just going to bring Toltu down, because, well, the only neutral objective at this moment in time is going to be that Rift Herald. Top lane is currently pushed in for AXIZ, so they don't have perfect control on the top side, so they're going to have to try and play through mid, and they're funneling. That's not great against a comp that has Crash Down and a Rel and everything else. I'm going to be real with you, AXIZ, there. You can give this one over and try and play for the mid.
Yeah, that is going to be their course of action, it appears. Obviously, if AXIZ can secure that mid lane tower, that would set them up a lot better for the Drake in a few minutes' time. But Kinatsu going Mega may think about engaging here, rooted up by Mega Man for what feels like a million years. As Dasher is going to go in with that Shadow Surge and gets a root onto multiple people. Oh, the Wombo combo is so beautiful from the Hawks. They get 2 kills. They're going to get a third as well. The ultimates just landed so beautifully there.
God, Dasher, you might have landed it on Sanchu, and Sanchu might have gotten out with an instant flash. But it doesn't matter, because the rest of your tanks all died. What does it mean if you have no tanks, but you have your carries? Well, it means pretty much sweet FA, because the front line is dead, so you've just got to kind of accept it. Is this even going to get a hit? Oh my god, both
beautiful.
Rift Heralds getting double taps on both of these outer turrets. They're so smoothed up. The side of AXIZ, well, the side of the Hawks have got so much standing gold really on this map. If they get either push, come into this replay. I mean, it's all on Dasher. You've just got to watch it, and I want you to watch Reiner as well on this top side, on the jungle side. But Dasher comes in, fears. Look at this, multiple man stuns and fears into it, and then Reiner, as I said, watch this. The crash down comboing with Kinatsu with the ult, and then it's like that's the fight done. That's it. It doesn't matter afterwards. Mega Man never really got into a spot. Sanchu had to immediately get out, and that's all they wrote. Hawks looked decisive. Gale Force picked up now for Marble after that fight, and my golly, Miss Molly, Kinatsu, what is that gold at 16 minutes in?
Top diff, I believe, is the term.
Horizons, is there one for gold?
There must be something associated with it, because that is absolutely absurd, and it sort of speaks as to why that team fight went as badly as it did for AXIZ, is because these tanks have no gold. Toltu is the only tanky member on AXIZ that actually has that mythic completed at this point, and so Swamp not going to be able to survive for too much longer. Dicey, yeah, he's got the Devour, which bought Sanctuary a little bit of time in that fight, bought him his life as well, actually, but it's still not enough to stand up against the damage that the Hawks have got right now. So AXIZ, they need more time with this composition, but it doesn't appear that the Hawks are going to give it to them.
I mean, why should they? Hextech Dragon is coming out. The side of Swamp and Crew are rotating around correctly, may I add. And they did just force Marble's Gale Force there, because I mean, a flash from Swamp could have probably gotten him on top of. But as you mentioned, Swamp doesn't have his Mythic for this fight, whereas he does know on the enemy side, Viego's got his ult. Viego's got his Mythic. I don't really want to go with that.
No.
I really don't want to go with that at the moment. Now, obviously, once he does get his own Chem Tank rather, he can absolutely. Nice.
That was all right. That was all right.
That was all right. I like it. Sangshu definitely giving tests, and Sangshu is a player I actually would like to bring this over to.
Yeah.
Because Swamp isn't having the greatest game. This definitely feels like you're just mana screwed, honestly, more than anything else for the player at the moment. Whereas Sangshu has been that big carry for the side of AXIZ.
Yes.
And the fact is, he is on a Jinx. And Megamin, another big carry player for the side of AXIZ, he is on that rise. Both of these players have looked very strong on these champions in the past. Obviously, Sangshu more recently. Megamin, it was more of that summer split where AXIZ just really turned on in 2021. Yeah. I want to see if they maybe can just stall this game out. It's going to be tough, but that is the angle for the for AXIZ at this moment in time. Because Hawks, if they get to play it at their pace, they'll win this game. Decisively, may I add.
Oh, absolutely.
6k gold at this moment in time, it will be decisive. If they can stall, if AXIZ can stall, I believe in Sanctuary and Megamin enough that they could get away.
I want to touch briefly on Sanctuary there, because what we said in Champion Select is we expected a Gale Force to come out of this Jinx because there was a lot of lockdown, there was a lot of potential CC. Instead, Sanctuary opting towards that Kraken Slayer, and with no cleanse available, this is a very, very risky playstyle for the Jinx. But for my money, and this is just me speaking, Lexi, I kind of love it. Sanctuary recognizes that he needs to be dealing a lot of damage, and if you sacrifice a little bit of safety for that, that's just the price that you have to pay for how poorly this early game has gone for you. He recognizes he needs to be the big carry, and he is itemizing appropriately.
I completely agree with you, and I actually like the angle that he's going for with this build, because it's just, I need raw damage, I need to kill whatever is coming at my team, and I need to just output as much of it as fast as possible, and really going for the opportunity that this build can give. It's very risky, but also Dicey is half for the sake of it, as we did mention also in Champ Select, kind of just going to be playing Protect Duty for Sangshu. So the reason that they didn't go for that Gale Force, they didn't go for the cleanse, is because, well, I mean, frankly, they don't want to go for that. They've got Dicey on this Tahm Kench, so they don't really want to do that. If they did that thing, why did they pick the Tahm Kench? Why didn't they pick something like a Lulu or a Yuumi, which is more of an enabler? They already knew they were probably going against a route. That's partly why. That's why they blind picked the Tahm Kench. It makes complete sense, but it's still one of those options. If they could have, maybe they could have done something different and really allowed the giga hyper scaling Jinx that we see with Yuumis, with Lulus, with Rakans sometimes as well.
Potentially. Another itemization thing I want to touch on as well is Kinatu going towards this Black Cleaver. Sees the number of tanks on AXIZ, and also it's been helping him out a lot in this side lane. Like, Teltu has never really been able to step up, and that's sort of continued through this game. Baron is on the table 21 minutes into the game. That's how things usually work here. Hextech Drake also spawning in around about a minute and a half, as Blank is space gliding a little bit there. But the Hawks now, they kind of have to make a decision. Are they going to go, we're going to invest our vision around the Baron, try and pick this one up, try and snowball as much as we can. But if you do that, you leave AXIZ and Angle to grab a third Drake, to grab this Hextech Drake and put themselves to sell point, which does give them a potential win condition back into this game. So difficult decisions that Hawks need to make over the next couple of minutes.
It is. And the one thing, though, that Hawks are doing effectively, though, is they are clearing out AXIZ's jungle. They're really trying to prevent the resources and the opportunities for the enemy team to come back. Whereas Hawks, on the other side, they're just going to try and find opportunities and angles. I mean, they just want to brute force this. The problem is, and I love how you set this up, is like, okay, Hawks, we can't just stall out this game forever because, yeah, while you guys do scale, you've got a Vex, you've got a Viego, you've got Zaya. There we go. I was trying to remember the duo name. I was like, I've got Rakan, but it's not Rakan. I just saw Rakan. He was in the last game and was doing very good stuff for Secret. For Secret. So you do scale. Thing is, do you want to let the enemy team scale? Because we all know what a 5-item Rise can do. We all know what a
people.
6-item Jinx can do.
Hurt people.
Yeah, so do you really want to just flip the coin and see where the gold lead doesn't really matter anymore? You've pushed to a 7k gold lead at 22 minutes in, Hawks. You should be opting for your fights. You should be really pushing the aggression, and this is where you should feel comfortable. Let's see how this next team fight goes, though, because Swamp's already getting taken low.
Ooh, massive chunk of damage as Blank is soft engaging onto Toltu. Hawks not hard committing as of yet, just whittling down this front line from AXIZ, forcing them away, making it a lot harder for them to actually play out the fight. And I like what they've done here.
Yeah.
They've gone, do you know what? We don't want to give AXIZ any chance of getting back into this game. Sanctu, once again, clearing the red buff and firing a rocket. Once again, not quite timed correctly to pick up the Drake. And the Hawks now have got 5 minutes where they don't really need to worry about the bottom side of the map at all.
It almost looked like Blank kind of walked into that Super Mega Death Rocket to help him get that Drake down a little bit lower faster. It was a bit of a weird one. I was like, wait, are you using his metal? Anyway, though, rotating around, that's 2 dragons stacked. That's 2 dragons that AXIZ would have loved to have had. And gold bounties are well and truly in this matchup now. I mean, AXIZ haven't been able to crack a single turret from the side of the Hawks. They've only got that 1 kill, which was more of kind of a pickup and kind of a consolation prize more than anything else. So AXIZ have struggled to really get much going outside of those first 2 Drakes, which kind of more came at the disadvantage that Tol2 had in the top side because Blank just shadowed Kinatsu for so long. So the consolation prize was Swamp getting some dragons. Since then, there hasn't been a consolation prize, and the Hawks just keep turning the screws. They steal the jungle, they're stealing all the mid wave, they're stealing every single wave. And look at the bot lane right now on your mini map. Kinatsu is just AFK pushing, and Tol2's having an awful time. And he didn't even go for a hull breaker. Didn't go for hull breaker and does this.
Yeah, it's got that Randuin's 3rd item picked up, so even tankier when he gets into the team fights and just pressuring on this bot lane is exactly what you want to do because the rest of your 4-man squad could secure vision on the top side, maybe secure a couple of picks as well as Ryder goes over the wall into the Magnet Storm and Blank with the kill onto Swamp. Crucially, that's the jungler. No smite available for AXIZ unless Tol2 wants to swap over to one, and that's going to give the go button for Hawks to start up the Baron.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a pink ward there, but I mean, let's be real. AXIZ already knew this was happening. Like we're all kidding ourselves. Marble's literally on top of that ward. Well, the vision from the Scuttle Crab. So I mean, they know what's happening here, but they can't fight this. They can't. Outside of Sangchu throwing a random ult, like now, okay, well, it's already gone down, and Reiner just played protection duty correctly, may I add. So now they're just kind of in no man's land. They lost 2 dragons, and oh no, Blank!
Oh, Mega Man caught out on the side, CC'd for a million years, and finally taking out first death of the game for the AXIZ mid laner. And Lexi, I've got a bone to pick. I've got a bone to pick.
All right, what have I done? What have I done?
Well, not with you, but right, AXIZ, they knew that they needed to do something. They can't just keep bleeding out, but ultimately their attempts to secure vision in the top side end up being futile.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, this is just snap reactions from the side of Reiner, Dasher, and Blank. They're immediately catching it out. And yeah, okay, cool. This is great. You're finding a response here, but what is it really going to equal to a turret that was pretty low already? That Hawks have just done backs, and because nothing happened really for AXIZ, they didn't have to back. So it's like, okay, small advantages for AXIZ when they can collapse. Cool, you got a turret. This game wasn't going to be a perfect game already. You already got a kill. So I mean, who really minds from a Hawks perspective? And what I actually want to highlight as we come into this, look at the Baron buff timer and look at the Hex Tech Dragon. It's almost in perfect harmony.
Oh, that's quite nice.
This is bad to worse, because it means if AXIZ are able to go, okay, let's stay alive, it means if Hawks get that dragon, they actually just have a second win con if this game goes an extra 6 minutes longer than they'd want. That's not what AXIZ needed. They needed to not have this happen. It's gone from bad to worse, and guess what? They're knocking on the front door.
And with that Baron buff, like, Hawks could just constantly pressure in this bottom side, and then when that Drake spawns, just rotate away from it so easily. Kanatsu just sort of chilling in mid lane, moisturized, unfazed in his lane, enjoying life.
He took that turret for free.
And he might not stop there, as the inhibitor is currently being focused. AXIZ need to pull the trigger, and they're going to do it on Talina. Not really the target you want to be taking down, but they will be taken down. Zhonya's buys a moment as Sanctuary gets the first kill of the fight, and Hawks just going to back away for now. They don't want to let this resetting Jinx take over the fight.
No, and I'm very happy with how that went. AXIZ had to commit the flash and the ult from Toltu there. Now, they didn't get a kill on return, but they still got a huge push on there. Remember, they still got 2 turrets in the mid and bot. Then they've got the base turret for the mid inhibitor. And they're resetting around. Yes, AXIZ are going to have an opportunity to at least fight for this dragon. That's more than they had going into this. But we're going to have to watch that small little boxes. Yeah, this is all start off by Toltu. Gale Force coming out from Marble. Really well played. Obviously, yes, they're able to collapse. But I mean, let's be real. AXIZ is starting up this dragon. They need to fight for this one. But it was still a powerful Baron play from the side of Hawks.
They need to be careful. Liner is going to be able to Hex take himself into that backline. Drake secured by Blank. That's sole point for the Hawks. But now, can AXIZ save this fight? It doesn't look likely, as Toltu is going to be going down right at the side. Sanctu gets devoured, will be not feared up, and is able to play out the rest of this fight fine, but it's just going from bad to worst for AXIZ, being taken solo, being taken down. Dicey tries to Abyssal dive away, but he's not going to be able to do it. It's another kill for Marble. Megamin is on the run, and the Hawks, I don't think they could quite end the game just yet, but they are going to grab some inhibs.
Blank with the fantastic smite, may I add. Like, that was really nice. I mean, just take everything away from AXIZ. Don't even give them the hope that they can at least go, oh yeah, but if we lose this fight, but we get the dragon, we can at least fight for soul, and maybe that's an in for us. Nope, you're going to be losing your base. You can lose the dragon. You lost 4 of your members, and poor Megumin, you stand alone, and who can even help you at this spot? Well, nobody really. So I just don't know. Hawks look so good in this game, though, from an opposite perspective. Hawks must feel so happy right now, and a win here will secure them and actually win the head-to-head, so that could be the playoff spot one with this game alone for them.
And it was a beautiful team fight. I feel like AXIZ, they kind of had it at the start, and as soon as that Drake goes down, as Sutu's Toltu drops on the front line, it just becomes so easy for the Hawks to play this one out.
I mean, Sanctu landing a really long ult forces Dicey to actually devour him up. But the thing is, it's like, okay, you get spat back out. The whole of the Hawks were immediately on top of them again. So it's all well and good having the Tahm Kench. The thing is, if your front line's already dead, he can't really spit you out anywhere. And yeah, I'm not surprised. Marble kited like an absolute beast, and also had to fight through all the tanks of AXIZ. So let's just remember, damage dealt to champions is always going to be a bit ballooned for Hawks. Little bit balloon. But still a good performance from an AD carry who we expected a lot of things coming into the split, and they didn't really deliver. And I don't think they're quite at that level yet where we really expected them to be at. No,
but still, if they could chain a couple more of these good games together, maybe we could start talking about them being in that sort of higher echelon of the LJL AD carries. That outer tower taken in the top lane is the final non-base tower taken by the Hawks, and now AXIZ really sort of locked in, not really got anywhere to go. Baron spawning in 5 seconds time. I imagine that the Hawks are going to be rotating for that one fairly sharpish.
Yeah, I think first Baron ended up being just that economy Baron, to steal Rudu's terminology of CB LOL. I mean, it's become synonymous now, and I actually really, I subscribe to the same philosophy, so I love it. I mean, Hawks are just going to, we took Econ Baron, let's now take Win Baron, because, I mean, they've got so much of the base of AXIZ already open. I mean, granted, if you just win a 5v5 with Mega Gnar, you can just end the game here.
They might be
It is
able
an
to.
option.
Dasher diving in, but Swamp will go golden. Tolto actually diving into the backline. The tank's trying to buy as much time as they can for AXIZ, but when you engage like that, they've got no hope, Liner. You absolute monster. What a magnet storm. It's going to secure the Hawks the clean ace. It's going to secure them the game. And it keeps the pressure up on AXIZ. They won't be able to find that advantageous head-to-head. And the Hawks will put themselves 5-11 and keep themselves in playoff contention.
Well played, Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming. Very deserved match for them. Very well played from really minute one from the side of the Hawks. They knew exactly how they wanted to execute this game. And a middle court. This is the Hawk team we kind of hoped to see at the beginning of the split. It's taken them a very long time, but they're starting to have some stronger performances now.
Absolutely. I mean, this was very well played, honestly. Yeah. Again, caveat, it's versus AXIZ, but rel ults like that can happen against anyone. And like we were worried when Liner got his rel that he was going to pop off. He was quite quiet that game, but all you need is one magnet storm like that, and it wins you the game, secures you that victory, and really keeps the pressure up on AXIZ.
It absolutely does. And I mean, return to form for a player who I've been worried about really since their Worlds run in 2020. Did not have a great 2021. This is starting to look a lot better for them, middle court.
Absolutely, but we're going to talk about that a little bit more after the break, as we're popping off for a couple of minutes, but then after that, J-Real is going to be joining us to break down that game.
Moments there. I think that, to be honest, it was quite a slow game.
J-Real, please begin again from the top, because I had you muted, mate, and I've just caught it.
Okay.
Here, before you throw it.
All right, we're running it back.
No, go again. Go back to break. We'll come back in. We'll do the whole thing.
Echo. Hold on. Let me do the echo. Let me. Oh. Welcome back. The Hawks picking up the win over the side of AXIZ. And to be honest, we talked about the Animal Kingdom. We talked about Wales versus Hawks, but we didn't expect the Armored Titan buff to come through there for the Hawks. Obviously, Titans versus Wales, never going to be an even fight. But getting into this game, I think that the Hawks were definitely soaring. They had a much better time this game. They definitely looked a lot stronger, and it was relatively slow, but I think it looked very controlled for them, which is kind of like what we wanted to see. Obviously, we have to talk about the big points now.
Yeah.
This takes them even with AXIZ. They're now both 5 and 11. Looking at the strength of schedule, which I'll talk about, I'll actually fill you in right now. So basically, both of them have tough times. Hawks have V3 next, but apart from that, they have all top teams. And AXIZ have all top teams. So right now, I feel like the pressure is on for the Hawks to win next game. And if they do, I think that they've basically secured 6th place.
I mean, this is the spot where it's more on AXIZ now to show us how much metal they're made of. Because, like, if they can beat, like, a Chris Gaming Act or a Burning Core, as well as also beating a V3 and getting maybe an extra win over Hawks, it doesn't matter that the head-to-head's even. The head-to-head's actually in the Hawks' favor. If they're able to still get those wins, I mean, this has basically made 6th place spot super spicy, J-Real. That is the ultimate decision. We are the winners.
And if V3 ever wanted to pick up a good win to make the game even more interesting, next game day is the one to do it. If they can do it on Friday, woo! We got that's a race. You know,
it's a bit spicy.
Top level race.
It is a ruddy race in many regards. And I think the crucial thing is that AXIZ aren't going to be playing against V3 again. So if AXIZ do want to secure that 6th playoff spot that maybe on the balance of the strength of their season they'd actually deserve, they need to pull out a win against a team that maybe they wouldn't be favored to. I am looking towards day 18 where they're playing against Burning Core. I think that is a matchup that definitely they have the potential to get an advantage in. But yeah, like this win for the Hawks blows the race for 6th wide open.
Yeah, it's huge. It's kind of like watching Sonic versus Dash from Incredibles. Who will win? I don't know. I'd like to see that one, to be fair. But going into this game, it felt like the Hawks were quite controlled. You know, they were quite composed. And Kanatu had a massive game. You know, obviously we can't forget this top lane diff was real. We kind of talked about Toll 2. Would you feel like it was champion diff, or do you feel like it was just player diff?
I mean, the curveball that was thrown out from literally second one from the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks after their bans, that B1 Viego, I think really set the stage for how I thought this game was going to go. And also how the Hawks decided to play this matchup, really. They got minor champion advantages. I mean, obviously, top lane was a huge surprise for both myself and Middlecott when that Scion was locked in for Toll 2. That was hugely unexpected. I thought we would see something that was far more dueling. And the fact is, Hawks got a small advantage and they just kind of used that momentum from the first few minutes, really.
I think the continual focus towards that top side was the thing that really did it for me. You don't often talk about champions like Nara's being carries, but if they're able to secure early advantages and start moving around the map and using the very powerful kit that the Mega Gnar has, I think that's a good way to snowball sort of like the rest of your carries. And it feels weird to me to talk about this in a Hawks game where Marble did pop off a lot of the times and Dasher has always been good. But I actually think it was more the sort of tank, the enablers on this team that really won it for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that it's interesting, right? I feel like AXIZ have had a bit of problem with the kind of being snowballed on and then not being able to regain like any sort of ground. And there was a moment in the game where Master One said, "Oh, golly, Miss Molly," or something like that. It was something like that. First of all, I need to question who Miss Molly is, because if it's Molly May, then I only have one thing for AXIZ. You know, you all have the same time in a League of Legends game. You all have the same items that you can buy. So why could they not come back into this? That's what I have to say about that one. But AXIZ, I do think they have had a bit of a problem with terms of being behind and not being able to win or turn it even around in their favor. And do you feel like that's kind of a big key to a lot of their losses? Or do you think actually, like, you know what, it is League of Legends, it is just Season 12, snowballing is just the way to win?
Yes, snowballing is well. And I mean, we just saw from Rascal Jesters, really, right? Like, DFM weren't able to capitalize on their ability to actually start the early advantage that they did get in that game. And then Rascal Jesters had an opportunity to come back and they snowballed their lead, right? They kept on top of DFM in that match. We saw the opposite in this match. We saw the Hawks just really putting the screws to AXIZ. Really, by the 15-20 minute mark, they had already got accumulated about a 4-5k gold lead, and they didn't have a lot of kills on the board. They had a few kills, but it was these turrets that they were taking. It was just multiple playing around the map, getting the Heralds over the Dragons, remember? And I mean, Hawks just knew how they wanted to play this match, and it felt convincing for me. Middlecourt, where are you more sitting with that though? Are you aligning with me, or are you like, nah, Hawks just better?
Well, I did say that the way that Hawks were going to win this was kind of just having better players, and I think that's kind of what we saw. AXIZ was always going to. We had them pegged from the start of the season as a roster that, yeah, they could pop off, they could have some good team play, but the level of the players that they've got there, not really up to some of the rosters, well, a lot of the rosters in the wider region. And I think that's what we saw in top lane, right? Toltu was just sort of getting diffed. Yeah, there was jungle attention, but really a lot of that was Kanatsu doing it on its own. And we didn't see it as much across the other lanes. I think that Sanctuary actually had a minor advantage over Marble in the bot lane, but like 20 CS versus like 2 towers and like 3 solo kills, it's not really going to work out well for you.
Yeah, it felt like, obviously, the Hawks kind of FIFA Ultimate teamed it a bit, buying Ronaldo packs, you know. But,
good analogy.
But, all in all, they are starting to come to fruition. They are starting to build up their skill, and they are definitely starting to win a bit more. And I guess the last question I have about AXIZ, more per se than the Hawks, is we kind of talked about have AXIZ really found their identity earlier in the season. Do you feel like they're still looking for that, or do you feel like they've now started to get some sort of kind of, this is AXIZ?
I don't know still what AXIZ are trying to do. I'll be honest, mate.
I'm still not sure what AXIZ is.
Hawks are just waiting for blank to hit 6, and that's at least one thing I can conclusively tell you. AXIZ, bigger brains than mine, no more.
Yeah. They're really thinking outside the box, sometimes outside the rift, which doesn't always translate too well. But that is going to be it from this game. But we're not done with the stream. We are only halfway. No. There's way more action to come. Kashka, I know, will be joining me next. We are going to have to say goodbye to Middlecourt and Marswan, which is very sad. But hopefully the games are going to be bringing us even more joy as we are going to go to a break.